You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group and co-hosts Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster, Joe Benazzi from OptionPit.com, and Henry the Flowmaster Schwartz from SEBO. The Option Block is brought to you by SEBO. When it comes to trading volatility, trust SEBO, the creator of the VIX Index, for in-depth and relevant information. SEBO's tools and services gives you up-to-date trade insights, analysis, and positions of VIX options and futures. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/VIX today to learn more. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again for the Option Block, your bi-weekly options extravaganza here. Kicking off our broadcast week, coming in hot off the heels of a pretty fun Super Bowl. Hope you all had some fun watching it, or whatever you chose to do yesterday. Maybe just had wings and pizza outside of the Super Bowl. Who knows? Whatever floats your boat. Hope you had a great weekend. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the ever fun, ever effervescent network on which so many of you are binging these days. And of course, if you want even more in your lives, then who can blame you? There's a lot of fun to be had, not just on the network, but going above and beyond, checking out the old pro, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. Welcome to all the new folks who've joined up over the past week. We love you all out there. Of course, theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. You get your name entered into the hat for all of our drawings and giveaways. You get access to not just one, but two exclusive shows every week. And of course, hundreds of exclusive hours of shows on the feed, as well as, of course, live access to this, everything else we do throughout the week here. All sorts of fun. So if you want to heckle these guys live, that's the way to do it. Theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go. Speaking of these guys, I am joined once again today by the unklest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, as well as the greasiest of meatballs, Mr. Mark Sebastian from OptionPit.com. I introduce them now, listeners, because it is that time. It is time to commence our broadcast week with a little bit of fun. Kind of wake us up, get the blood pumping for the week of content that is to come. How do we do that? It is, of course, with our 80s wrestling trivia game. So here we go. There we go. All right. Need a little bit of fun music. Set the tone. All right, gentlemen. Prepare your buzzers. When I say time to buzz, then one of you, whoever is the fastest on the trigger, will get to guess. All right. Today's question, listeners, goes back to the much heralded. You know, we talked about WrestleMania 1 recently, but the big dog, the one that really kicked off the 80s wrestling era as we know it, was actually WrestleMania 3. It, of course, climaxed with Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. Hulk Hogan infamously, legendarily slamming Andre the Giant. It was the moment that sent everything over the top. It is still the moment to this day. If you happen to turn on something from WWE now, it is the first thing you see in that montage. Hogan slamming Andre. It is far and away the thing that kicked off everything else that was to come. 93,000 people. And I think it was the Silver Dome where they did this one. So just insane across the board. This is what really kicked off the Hogan and the 80s wrestling era into high gear. So everyone remembers Hogan versus Andre. But there was another match on that card that has gone down in history as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, wrestling matches of all time. Say what you will about Hogan and Andre. Not the greatest wrestling match. Maybe one of the most influential, but certainly not the greatest. But this one was. And it featured two legends of the 80s wrestling squared circle. We had one of the greats, the legend, the Macho Man Randy Savage against who for this? All right.
No,
Mr. Meatball.
First.
Mr. Meatball, I heard you first. No, you guys are muted until I unmuted you. Time for buzzing. So if you buzzed early, that doesn't count. Meatball was certainly first. Mr. Meatball, go for it.
Bridge.
I know, you get it. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Yes. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. One of the greatest matches.
To be fair, Mike knew this too, and we were both like buzzing like the entire time.
Yeah, that's why I have you guys muted. I don't want to hear any of that noise.
When I knew you were about to be unmuted, I went buzz, 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 buzz.
I don't want to hear any of that noise. So, Mike, you got to learn. You're muted. You can't do it early. If you did that to Alex Trebek, would you get points? No. You'd get kicked off the stage.
He'd let you come in early.
You'd get kicked off the stage. No, you got to respect the music. So, yes, it was Macho versus Ricky the Dragon. All right. I will give Mr. Meatball first, and if he guesses it wrong, you can get a shout out at Uncle Mike. For a bonus half a point, Mr. Meatball, what belt were they fighting for?
They were fighting for it wasn't the Intercontinental Championship, was it?
I don't know. You have to guess. You tell me.
Well, that's my guess.
Okay, yes. It was the IC belt. Okay, yes. Okay. So you got that one right. And then, final bonus question. Who won?
Macho Man.
Oh. That is incorrect. So, Mr. Uncle Mike, steal half a bonus point. Go for it.
Ricky the Dragon Steamboat won.
Yes, Ricky the Dragon won. There you go. Uncle Mike gets a point.
That's right. I forgot because Lanny needed to lose so he could move up in card. So, because they wanted to push him to the upper card, and the only way to do that was for him to lose the title.
There you go. By the way, his brother just died. I saw Leap and Lenny Poffo just died recently. So,
the genius.
The last of the macho ilk now gone from this earth. But yes, that was one of there's a couple of matches, listeners, people hold out as the greatest of all time. One is this one, Macho versus Ricky the Dragon. The other one is usually Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels. I forgot. Maybe that'll be a trivia question. That's not 80s. So that was later on, obviously, many years later. So those are two of the ones, but this one, a great one. A Macho Man losing the IC belt to Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. As we keep on rolling right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the trading block. Did you get any of those questions right? Did you know that? Trying to throw some curveballs here on the old 80s wrestling tree. You know, it's fun. Gets the old blood pumping, gets things exciting for the week of content that is coming for you here on the old network. You know what else is coming for you is a bit of a rally on the old street today. S&P up nearly a full percent, about 0.9% right now. Dow up a similar, about 0.85%. And the NASDAQ taking the lead once again, getting the bit in its teeth, up about 1.3%. That means most of our vol friends, though, even though they're kind of down on the day, they are still up from our last show. Remember, we had a little bit of a sell-off since our last show. So vol is generally higher than it was last Thursday. So net, we're still up right now. When we kicked off the show, we had VIX at about a 20.6. That's about 0.6 of a point higher than it was on our last show. So we were hanging out right at a 20 on our last show. VVIX still frothy at about a 94, down about 1 point from Thursday's show. VXX 11.75. That means it's unched from where we were on Thursday. UVXY 520, actually up about 0.2 of a point. So still hanging out right around that 5 handle. I don't know when they're going to reverse split this thing, but they probably should do it soon. And then SVIX 1710 back down. But this was close to about I think got up to about almost a 1860, somewhere in that realm. The machine really wants to slow down. 1856. That was pretty close for the high. there. So 17-10 right now. UVIX 1960, so back below. It was threatening a 22 not too long ago. It's still up from our Thursday show, up about 0.6 of a point. And VolQ also up at about a 26 even when we kicked off the show, up about 0.75 of a point from Thursday show. Let's go around the horn. Mr. Meatball, if you have any enduring memories of Macho versus Ricky the Dragon, have at it. And then B, what's catching your eye in today's rally, sir?
Yeah, it just goes to show you that the most hyped matches are not always the best matches. That match was just two technicians having at it. And it was great. There's been a lot of those matches that people don't really recognize as being really, really good. Santana versus Rick Martel is another one where they were both just really good wrestlers. Marty Jannetty versus Shawn Michaels, right? They both were technically proficient, just nobody cared about Marty Jannetty, right? And that's what I kind of remember. And but yes, that was a heck of a match.
And it was indeed.
It was the opposite of Hogan versus Ward.
Yeah. Hogan versus Andre was like, 3 moves. Whereas Macho, and I happened to look it up before the show time, I said 22 near falls. I said the work rate of this was, but that would be impressive today, let alone back in the steroid era of the 80s. It was unmatched. So yeah, it was definitely something to see. And speaking of something to see, you got a rally today, sir. What's catching your eye, sir?
Yeah, the market is on the move. We're catching a bid ahead of CPI. A lot of strength in the NASDAQ. Your oil names were pulling back a little bit earlier. They've since gotten a little bit of recovery, although the XLE is still down. XLK leading the charge. And the Russell leading the Dow and the S&P. Vol is up, mostly on weekend adjustment. A little bit of a pullback in VVIX after getting completely overjuiced. And then like I said, your energy names still look like they're moving higher. And we still are in the throes of earnings season. There's still some big earnings to go up this week that I'm keeping an eye on. But I think, it's all about CPI pre-positioning. That's the way it looks to me.
Name of the game, inflation. You may have heard of it, listeners, once or twice over the past couple of years. Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you. If you have any enduring memories of Macho versus Ricky the Dragon, have at it. And then B, what's catching your eye in a distinctly Uncle Mike type of day?
Well, I mean, I could go on for hours about WrestleMania 3 and the various stories that I have from it. I remember being in, I believe it was 5th grade at the time, going over to my uncle's house, a big WrestleMania party. It was a ton of fun. But the enduring story that I have from it involves the Pontiac Silverdome. So when I was playing with the Bills, or just whenever we were playing a road game against the Detroit Lions in preseason, and so you always get to the game, the stadium a couple hours before the game. And so, typically before the game, you're thinking of things or trying to think of the playbook, visualizing things. That was not the case when we went to town for the Pontiac Silverdome. True story. Hours before the game, I'm literally walking around the field of the Pontiac Silverdome just with goosebumps, thinking this is where it all was. This is where WrestleMania 3 was. I could be standing right where Hogan slammed Andre. This is where Bobby the Brain Heenan came out on those little ring carts that they had because the arena was so big for WrestleMania 3. This is where this happened. This is where that happened. I'm walking back to the locker room to get ready for the game. I'm like, this might be where Bob Uecker was interviewing people. I mean, it was just a surreal, cool experience. Oh, and I got to be in an NFL game that day too. So it was kind of cool too. But
I could see that happening, definitely.
The Pontiac Silverdome and WrestleMania 3. True story.
I could totally see that you walking around like a little kid, eyes wide open at all that fun stuff.
It's all true too. But, everybody, that NFL stuff, that's all fake anyway. But I mean, the pro wrestling, that's where it's really at. So anyway, with this market where it's really at today, the first thing, it is about inflation. I totally agree with that. But the individual name that's really catching my eye today and just lately is good old Mr. Softy, Microsoft.
Yeah.
Holy cow, up 3% on the day. And that's just kind of one of those situations to where I'm looking at it. And it is one of our triple income stocks that we use for our covered calls. And thank God we had a call spread on it, not a covered call, or we'd have a lot of egg on our face right now. But yeah, Microsoft is just on a tear lately. And then it looks like they're in this battle with Google, and Google, it's about flat on the day today. So maybe they're playing. Maybe the bad news on Google has been played out. The good news on Microsoft could be continuing. Who knows? We shall wait and see on that one. But Microsoft, definitely a big mover today. Netflix up 2.5% on the day. Apple is actually kind of boring, only up 1.8% on the day. So tech is where it's at today from everything with which we're seeing, from individual names and whatnot. The other thing is that we're getting ahead of where we were. We're getting close to knocking on the door of, we're not quite there yet. We'll need another day like today to do this, but 41.95 on the SPX is right now the recent high. And so it might be interesting to see if maybe CPI could push us above that, or some earnings could push us above that. We'll see, but we're not quite there yet by any means. Still a little bit of a pullback in the 10-year, but we are stabilizing somewhat today with it being relatively flat. And let's see, let me look at Bitcoin just to see if I can give some comments on it. Oh yeah, maybe we should buy a bunch of Bitcoin. I don't know, but my domain is for sale. Check it out on GoDaddy, bitcoinreallysucks.com. It is for sale. You can check it out and see if you want to buy it. And that's my trading block for the day.
I bid you $1 for that domain just to take it off. Take it off your books there, sir. Uncle Mike, stay tuned for him. Guest starring on the Crypto Rundown coming up a little bit later after this show today, listeners. So should be all sorts of fun in store for us out there. Speaking of fun, a lot of fun out there in the market today, at least if you're on the bullish side, because we're seeing some numbers. VIX, once again, post-Fed announcements, VIX has really become a different beast from a volume perspective. It is just on fire of late. We're seeing 722,000 contracts on the tape, and that's already beating the already impressive ADV, which is up to 650,000 contracts a day now. Remember, just a few weeks ago, right before the Fed announcement, it was about 501. So they've gained about 150,000 contracts a day in the VIX since then. So it's been just a whirlwind of paper out there in the vol options front. Doesn't show any signs of slowing down, at least until we hear more from the data tomorrow, where we have another shocking number like we saw on the jobs front recently out there. Who knows? But the paper flying fast and furious. Also the case out there in SPY. Matt, perhaps not quite as fast and furious as we've seen on recent days. We have been north of 5 million recently by this time of the show. Today, 4.5 million. Nothing to sneeze at, of course. ADV a little bit north of 9, about 9.14 million out there. So SPY looking good, pretty much exactly half of its ADV right now, as opposed to VIX, which is already blowing past its ADV. The S, 1.3 million. That's actually kind of light for the S. Usually we see it 1.6, 1.8 million by this time of day lately, just with all this zero DTE madness. The ADV, 2.7 million. So again, it's a little bit less than half of its ADV. That shows how much the SPX has changed. Used to be if it was north of 1 million by this time, wow, that was a crazy active day. Now we expect about 1.6. So yeah, things have certainly changed out there. Small caps, 416,000 contracts. The ADV about 886. So not even halfway to its ADV on the small cap front. Pretty much exactly there for the Qs. 1.56 million contracts right now. The ADV, 3.02 to be precise. So hanging out right around halfway to its ADV there. Let's see what's going on the single name front. And you know what? It's decent, but it's not what we've seen recently. We've seen north of 400,000 contracts recently to break into the top 10, which again is kind of in keeping with the earnings season spirit. We see a lot of single name action during earnings season. Today it's decent, but nothing blowing the doors off. 221,000. That gets us all the way to the former king of the memes. I don't know what you call it now, but it is AMC hanging out $4.70, off about 20 cents on the day. On the year, a different story. They've shed about $13, even though they have rebounded about $1 from their lows. That low was a little bit north of 370. That was back right at the beginning of the year, actually. That's kind of where they kicked off the year. So they're up almost $1 from their lows on the year, but also well shy of their high, which was $34.33. So that was back in, when was that? That was back in March of last year. So when the rest of the market was getting shocked by all of the madness going on in Ukraine, AMC was off to the races. And then they gave that up. Then they actually rallied again back in August. They got up to about 24, looks like about $25.50 actually, before giving it up again. So they've tried to shoot this to the moon a couple of times, but no cigar for them. Number 9, Uncle Mike was just talking about them. we got the buddies here, the twins, the Goog and Googels. Number 9, we got the old Googs, 256,000 contracts for Goog, hanging out 94.70 off about 15 cents today. Also, though, above its low, a little bit, looks like about a little 11, almost $11.50 off its low, which is a little bit shy of 83.5 bucks. Trading 94 3/4 right now. Number 6. Yeah, I said number 6. They've fallen off a little bit. This is the Amazonians. Good for. Actually, I'm sorry. Let's before we get to 6. There's multiple Googs on the list today. It's throwing me off. Number 9, we got our old friend. Or I should say 8. Our old friend. Is it dying? Well, apparently not today, but it's not looking good today. It's Bed Bath & Beyond. Man, what a saga this one has been on over just the past month. Shot up to, looks like, almost $6. That was back on the 6th. Whipsawing all over the place, hanging out right around $2 today, off 30 cents or about 12%. So not zero, but also not $6. Got as low as about $1.27. That was obviously back a few weeks ago, and all these rumors first started surfacing about it's going the way of the dodo. Then we get number 7, our old friend Alphabet, aka the Googels. 342,000 contracts for them. As Uncle Mike alluded to, they've been making some headlines of late. This whole new AI wars, the chatbot wars. Of course, Microsoft has a stake in everyone's favorite ChatGPT, and so that's been driving a lot of that recent upside for them. Google tried the same. I think theirs is called the Bard. It screwed the pooch on an answer about NASA. It was only one response out of many that it got wrong, but that was enough to shave $100 billion worth of market cap off of Google right there. Just oh my God, their AI sucks. It's been amazing to watch this latest AI madness out here. Google, number 7, 342,000 contracts. Now we get to number 6. I was jumping ahead of myself before. This is the Amazonians. Again, falling from usually somewhere around number 3 to today, number 6, 345,000 contracts. That's pretty light for Amazon as well. Nice little lift for them today, up about $1.40. So pretty much 1.4%. They're hanging out close to $100, about 99 and change right now. And then we've got number 5. Ever since they announced their layoffs and everything else, Meta, been a perpetual name on our list here. Today, number 5, 347,000, up another 540 or 3.2% today for Meta. So this name also kind of kicking off the wave of layoffs in big tech. Until they really announced it, it wasn't cool to lay people off in the big tech land. And now all of a sudden, hey, they're doing it. Then Twitter did it. Then next thing you know, the mother's doing it out there. It's cool to lay people off now, apparently. Where in the past, everyone was fighting for all the talent they could get, lunches, everything you could to keep people around. But these days, see you later, apparently. Meta, again, 347,000 contracts, number 5. Number 4, the chip zone. Coming late today, and only one. No twins in the chip zone today. No AMD, just NVIDIA here for number 4, 355,000. Again, it kind of shows you the kind of day we're having. We're at number 4, and we're only at 355,000 contracts. So kind of light, even though NVIDIA, even I'm doing the listeners, even NVIDIA off to the races today, $7.50, up 3.5%, hanging out right around 220. So they're obviously well north of the 52-week low of 108, also still fairly shy of their 52-week high, which is right around 290. They got about 70 handles to go for that, but still an impressive little run here for NVIDIA. Now, what we were just talking about, the other half of these new AI/chatbot wars, it's a softy. 533,000 contracts today. Softy just on the rampage, up 9.25, 3.5%, trading 272 and about a third. Who knew? Chatbots. So valuable. Apparently, that's the next wave. That's the next big battleground for big tech listeners. Again, their low is 213 and about a half. Looks like they set that back late October, early November timeframe of last year. So ever since then, they've been rallying. But of course, the lion's share of this rally coming this year. They kicked off the year at 222. They are now 272. They popped 50 handles over the last 5 weeks. So nice little pop here for good old softy. Number 2. At least back in the number 2 spot, so getting the silver medal today, it is Apple, 574,000. They've been kind of getting kicked to the curb lately, listeners. They're having a nice little day today as well, up nearly $3 or about almost 2%. Trading back pretty close to that 154 level. That puts them almost exactly 30 handles north of their 52-week low and about 25 handles shy of their 52-week high. Maybe that'd be a fun poll to put out there for you. Which one will Apple hit first, their 52-week low or their 52-week high? Intriguing stuff out there. Which Which way would you wager in this one, listeners? And then number one, you know what it is. I barely need to tell you anymore. It's pretty much been locked at number one. I think we had a couple of random names kick it off once. But outside of that, it's really just been locked to this number one spot. It is Tesla actually selling off for the first time in a while. Selling off to 194 and 3/4, off about 215 today. Of course, they are well north of their 52-week low of 101, set just a few weeks ago. That was crazy town. 1.64 million contracts on the tape for them today. So things looking pretty robust out there for good old Tesla. Things also looking robust on the earnings front. Got some big names popping off still this week. Palantir today after the bells. I know the Rock Lobster loves them. He'll be watching that one. I got Denny's if you're there for the moon over Miami vol. There you go. Got you covered there today. Tomorrow, Warren Buffett's favorite, one of his longest, if not his longest holding. It's Coca-Cola, followed by Marriott and Airbnb tomorrow. Wednesday, Roblox. Let's see what's going on the gaming front, as well as Krispy Kreme, Roku, Cisco, and Marathon Oil. I'm guessing that one probably will be all right, as well as Twilio. And then Thursday, we got Crocs. So what kind of rubber shoe vol we got cooking? I guess we'll find out. Paramount, Hasbro, DraftKings, AMAT, and DoorDash. And Friday, we've got John Deere. We've got some hot ones popping off here. Fresh, hot off the presses from our friends over there in Orat's Land. Let's see what we got in store for you today. We've got Checkpoint Software Technologies popping off right before the bell today. Ticker symbol CHKP, trading 127, about 20 when they went into their announcement. So they were pricing in 4.1%. They delivered 0.8%, so a whole bunch of nothing for them. Yeah, everyone's favorite, Monday.com. What a terrible name for a company. Used to be a restaurant down the street here called Mondays. I always used to laugh, say, who would go to Mondays? And then, of course, they closed. Apparently, Monday.com saying, hold my beer, kid, basing all of their branding around that as well. Today, they're a cloud-based software platform. They were today before the bell. They went into their announcement 131.20. And let's see, they're pricing in 14.1%. They delivered 10.9%. By the way, ticker symbol MNDY. Or Monday for them, MNDY. They're popping nicely today, though, up in nearly 15 handles. So I guess the market shrugging off their name and liking their cloud-based project management software. So there you go. They went public back in the heady days of June 2021, listeners. So there you go. Based out of Tel Aviv. So maybe Monday, not quite the cultural cachet over there that it is here. We got some other stuff coming up throughout the week here. We got Airbnb coming up tomorrow after the bell. Let's see, they're at 108, almost 109 when we ran this report. They're pricing in $9.63. In the past, they moved $7.80. So a fair amount of extra juice out there in Airbnb. Is it merited? I don't know. We'll find out. This is where Uncle Mike lists his domains. It's GoDaddy, 14th after the bell as well. $81 is where they were trading when we ran this number. Or this report, I should say. They're pricing in $5. In the past, they moved $5.50. So it looks like a little bit less domain name volatility on the docket, unless Uncle Mike sells his Bitcoin really sucks before then maybe that number might pop a little bit out here. Let's keep rolling. Let's look at Roblox. There, you said the 15th before the bell, 34, almost $35. They're pricing in 4 3/4. In the past, they moved $5.60. So a fair amount less juice here for Roblox. That is somewhat surprising. Cisco, Uncle Mike's favorite. Cover your ears here. 47 1/4. They are the 15th after the bell. They're pricing in $265. In the past, they've moved $268. So a whole heck of a lot of nothing in terms of extra or less juice. Pretty much exactly what they've done in the past is what Cisco is pricing in. Roku, they of the set-top box infamy. They were a very volatile, big options name for quite a while. They've obviously fallen off. We don't see them on the top 10 as much anymore here. But they're on the 15th after the bell, trading about $55 when we ran this report. Well, this is interesting. They're pricing in $8.14. In the past, they've moved $5.10. So over $3 worth of extra juice. That's a lot for Roku. That's kind of harkening back to the old days when it was a surprisingly volatile set-top box and operating system maker. Let's go to rubber shoes, see how much vol they have. 16th before the bell. It's Crocs. We love Crocs way, way back in the early days, back in 2007 when we first launched this whole little voyage that became the Options Insider listeners. The first time our website crossed 1,000 visitors in a day was when we posted some unusual activity about Crocs. Everybody had to know what was going on in Crocs options. So don't like the shoes, but they'll always have a fond place in my heart for kicking us into that next level there. I always thought when we first launched it, who's going to want to read or listen to this stuff, right? You're not going to get 1,000 people in a day. That's madness. Then along comes CROX to change the game. 16th before the bell, 115 and about a third is where they were trading. They were pricing in 13 and a quarter. In the past, they moved 11 and a quarter. So $2 worth of extra juice for rubber shoes. Interesting. I'm guessing probably input prices playing a part in that, but we shall see. AMAT. Talked about them recently on the show, not so much today. They kind of popped on for the first time in a long time. You're kind of joking about how it was kind of a name from the past. 16th after the bell, 114 and 3/4 is where they were trading. They're pricing in $6.40. In the past, they've moved $3.80. That's a heck of a lot of extra juice, listeners. Wow. Speaking of extra juice, DoorDash, this segment has come under all sorts of fire since the pandemic. People have started to go back to work. DoorDash maybe taking a little bit of a hit. Let's see here. 57 and 3/4. They're popping off on the 16th after the bell. They're pricing in 7 and a quarter, listeners. In the past, they've moved about 4 and a third. So almost $3 worth of extra juice in DoorDash. They're pricing in a heck of a lot of juice as well. And since we just talked about the Super Bowl, let's get out of here on DraftKings. 16th after the bell. The Flowmaster was just on the show last week talking about a lot of weekly options paper in DraftKings heading into the Super Bowl. It seemed kind of silly, but hey, people trade around these kind of known knowns out there, and certainly the Super Bowl would be one for DraftKings. But they have their number coming out this week, 16th after the bell. They're trading about exactly $16 when we ran this report. They're pricing in $1.84. In the past, they've moved to $1.79, so not a heck of a lot extra really at all. Pretty much right in line for DraftKings. So intriguing stuff out there. Let's see what else. Oh, before we get there really quickly, let's run down the season here. We're hanging out at 126% right now, listeners. So that's still looking pretty robust. Our average since the pandemic has been about 92%. So will we be able to maintain this? That seems like a lot, but hey, we've been actually doing some fair amount of outperformance here. So wouldn't surprise me. My gut tells me we're probably going to drop a bit from this, probably around the maybe 108, 110. That would still be very impressive. But 126 is a lot. And in terms of earnings trades, we are still monitoring 56 long straddles and 31 long calendars for your earnings trading information and or enjoyment. Where can you see all of that stuff I just ran down and a whole freaking bunch more completely for free because we like you? TheOptionsInsider.com is the place to go, because now we got to go right on into the odd block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by TheOptionsInsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, let's do it. Let's commence operations on the weirdness, the wildness. Let's see what we got cooking here. Let's see what our Eye of Sauron has found for us today. And I'm kicking things off with a newcomer. I like this ticker, listeners. This is Aerojet Rocketdyne Holdings. It just sounds good. It sounds futuristic, doesn't it? Ticker symbol AJRD. This is an American manufacturer of rocket, hypersonic, and electric propulsive systems for space defense, civil, and commercial applications. Wow, there you go. Nicely detailed description. Always like that. Trading right now about $56 exactly. Today up about 20 cents. On the year, a bit of a different story. They've had a nice year out here. Go figure. A year with tanks rolling for the first time in Eastern Europe since World War II. Some funds going towards Aerojet Rocketdyne Holdings. A year ago, they were trading $36.89. And they've been pretty much fighting their way north. Looks like they had actually kind of a quiet year until October, because in October they were still $41. So they were north, but they were only about $4.50 north of where they started the year. And then they kicked it into high gear in October. They went from about $40 in October. By December 2nd, they were trading $55. And they've been pretty much hanging right around this level, $55, $56, pretty much ever since. So they shot up in October. Maybe they got a new contract. I'm not sure what the deal was, but good earnings across the board, whatever it was. This thing just roaring north here in October. And that's where the lion's share of their good year has come from, up pretty much 52% over the course of the past year. So not a bad year here for AJRT. And it seems like, Mr. Meatball, somebody maybe a little bit concerned about the prospects for Aerojet Rocketdyne Holdings. Sounds like Teledyne, doesn't it, from Terminator? Someone's concerned about the old AJRD because they came in this morning and scooped 5,000 of the March double puts. Looks like they traded for 30 cents. Now, this market was an atrocity, so not a lot you can glean into it. It was no bid at 50 cents. The amount of no bids I'm seeing disseminated recently, listeners, is a little bit alarming. You could not get away with that back in the old days when you were standing in front of someone in a pit and made a market. If you said no bid, they could be reasonably expected to punch you in the face, and you would deserve it. These days, the no bids are flying fast and furious. This was no bid at 50 cents. So they went up for 30 cents. So it is possible they found a 30-cent bid for these bad boys and sold a line in the sand. These are pretty much at-the-money puts, 55 puts. So if they're selling at-the-money puts after this pretty big aggressive run-up, they got some cojones then. This is stock was pretty much right here, $56 when this went up. And there are earnings coming up pretty much in a few days on the 17th before the bell. So, Mr. Meatball, a lot to unpack here. Are you a big fan of everyone's new favorite, Aerojet Rocketdyne Holdings, Inc.? What do you think of these puts? And what do you think about this another no-bid market coming at us?
Yeah, I mean, this is not the most active stock by any means. Basically, part of the reason why the markets are so wide is because this thing trades by appointment.
You don't wake up every morning and brush your teeth and then, check a quote on AJRD? What's wrong with you?
What I'll tell you is that after this trade went up, the market's now 35.50. So I'm thinking that they might have been a seller and not a buyer because you wouldn't see them bid out the way they are. So I think someone might have been trying to sell these puts.
Which way do you like them better? Buying at the money puts in March after the stock has shot up, or selling some, saying, "Hey, I like this bad boy"?
Probably with earnings coming up, probably buying. But there's something fishy going on with these. This thing has been in such a tight range. I wonder if there's a corporate action along with this thing.
It does have the whiff of that about it. Yeah, something is floating around there behind the scenes. I'm kind of with you. Given just looking at this chart, knowing nothing else about this name, looking at this recent performance, earnings come up in a couple of days, I might be more inclined to buy those and sell those. Usually I'm the other way around. Usually I like to sell a good put, but in this case, I probably would like to buy those. So I don't know. What do you think, listeners? No bid at 50. They went up for 30 cents. Would you rather buy them or sell them for 30 cents with this earnings coming up in a couple of days? Intriguing stuff. Maybe you really like yourself some Aerodyne, in which case you might be picking some up if you sell those puts for 30 cents. Intriguing stuff. We'll know in a few days whether these are faring well or not. We'll probably come back to those fairly soon. Meanwhile, let's go out. This is another one. We have talked about this before, but it's been quite some time. This is TransUnion. You know them, Consumer Credit Union out there. Ticker symbol TRU. Trading $69.61, up about 60 cents today. On the year, let's see, it's been a bit of a different story. A year ago, was trading about $100 exactly. So they're pretty much down about 31% on the year. They've actually rebounded from their low. Their low came in November, early November. They hit about $50 exactly. So they've rallied almost $19, actually a little over because it was 50.32, so a little over $19 on that low. So not a bad couple of months here for TransUnion, even if it was a pretty terrible year net. And it looks like, Mr. Meatball, we got someone coming in at a couple of blocks of the Feb 65 puts. So these are going out next week. Let's see. They must have earnings. Yeah, they have earnings coming up. Looks like tomorrow before the bell. So yeah, this is just an earnings pure and proper trade here. We have 1,712 of the Feb 65 puts going up for 70 cents, lifting the offer. That is a 82 vol, listeners, as meaningful as such numbers are the couple of days to go. The stock was right around here, about 69.75 when these went up. Then they came in, looks like, let's see, it was about 21 seconds later, so pretty much the same trade, and put up 1,600 more for 80 cents. Gotta love this. This one, some of it could be just the quote dissemination is wonky here too, because they printed them. They were 40 cents at 70. They lifted the offer 1,700 times for 70 cents. And they came back 20 seconds later and said, how are they now? and they got no bid at $1.85. Just terrible. So they just widened it out on both sides. Said, what do you want to do now? And they ended up, looks like, excuse me, trading for 80 cents. I can't laugh anymore, listeners. Makes me cough. 80 cents. Another 1,600 times. The stock looks like about a dime lower when that happened. So it had moved a little bit, but not much. Again, earnings tomorrow. Mr. Meatball, this goes along the same lines of atrocious markets. Usually when you see the first print go up, you see the markets get tighter, not the other way around. This just spooked the hell out of everybody, apparently. But someone looks like they're gobbling up some puts going into the announcement, sir. Maybe not looking good for TransUnion. What say you, sir?
Yeah, that's what it looks like. These are relatively inexpensive, out of the money. It might be a stock hedger, but yeah, these look like a pure play on a potential drop here in TransUnion.
I might get my market of the week nod here. They trade them 1,600 times. How are they now? Oh, no bid at $1.85. just widen out in both directions. We don't want to trade this thing.
Well, they probably swept out at the offer.
Yeah.
And then widened that thing out and then crossed the rest at whatever price they wanted to do them. That'd be what I would.
I got a feeling it probably was a data transmission error, but it doesn't look good to be disseminating no bid at $1.85 right after you put up 1,700 of them. That's right. Just funny.
You and I are in agreement in that respect.
Brings a smile to my face. Probably not to the face of that customer, but intriguing stuff nonetheless. Speaking of intriguing, let's go back a little bit, listeners. We have a ton of trades that are going to pop off this week here that we've been keeping an eye on for you folks out there. Let's pay off one of them now. Let's go back to our January 9th show. So right at the beginning of the year, pretty much, we talked about Ralph Lauren, ticker symbol RL, and it seemed like somebody was a wee bit concerned about their ongoing future, maybe with some good reason. They had a year ago, they were trading 122.5. They got up to about 134 back in February of last year. Then they fell off a cliff. I wonder what could have killed them in February of last year. And they remained down there for most of the year. They got down to about 82.25 in September. Then they started rallying again. By the time we did the show on January 9th, they were trading 116. And we saw someone come in saying, maybe this little bit of a near-term rally for Ralph Lauren, maybe it's a wee bit too much of a good thing. Either way, they were a little bit concerned. They were scooping up 15,000 of the Feb 90 puts, 9-0. They paid 65 cents for them. That was a 55 vol. Worth noting, this was ahead of earnings. They had earnings on the 2nd. Let's go look over the past month and see how these things fared, listeners. I said the stock was at 116 when they put it on. It hung out there for a while. And then shot up on the 23rd up to about almost 127. By the time earnings came out again, it got up to almost 128, 127.75. So obviously they were looking good there. It has since given up a lot of that, but not enough to matter. The lowest it got during this time was pretty much where the trade went up, 116. That was the lowest, the lowest it got during the lifespan of these puts, because we are coming into expiration this week, listeners, and these bad boys are still open. And at least on the options side, not looking great. They're down close to $1 million, about 975,000 on the puts. Now, obviously, if you're buying these puts, you got stock in your back pocket as well. So they're probably happy to be up about exactly 7 handles on the stock. So they're probably not too mad, but it's never happy to drop $1 million, Mr. Meatball. What say you?
Yeah, that'd be my bet. I'm guessing that this is done with some stock and they don't mind, but obviously they would have loved it if the thing dipped and then ripped. It did not dip. It just ripped.
The old dip and rip. Didn't get the dip this time, just the rip, in which case your puts are going to be left holding the bag. And you know who's never left holding the bag? It's us after a strategy block, listeners. So let's get to it.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the Strategy Block.
All right, Mr. Uncle Mike, I set you up. I said you never leave us holding the bag. Now you have to deliver, sir. What you got in store for us?
Well, I mean, I was going to pass out some free gift bags, but that kind of messed things up.
I did screw that up a little bit, admittedly.
Yeah, so I guess no gift bags today, but maybe some other day. But anyway, what I want to talk about today, I just want to highlight what we're doing in one of our trades. We mentioned in the beginning of the show with Microsoft, and there's plenty of bad trades that happen too, and there's plenty of good trades that happen when you do as many trades as we do. But I want to talk about that in that Microsoft, if you look over the course of the last year or so, it's been down. And we've been selling premium on its way down, and it's down from its all-time highs in the mid 300s, and it got as low as the low 200s. And so from there, we've been selling premium on its way down. But then the way with which whenever people look at covered call trading portfolios is that the frustration is that if you're buying stocks on dips, and you sell a covered call against it, then the stock goes up rapidly, you get called away. Now, granted, the good part of that is that if you get called away in any covered call, you get to make your maximum profit, and that's wonderful. However, if all of a sudden you get into a situation to where a stock that you consistently sell covered calls on goes down, well, what the heck do you do then? Do you just, if you still like the stock, do you keep selling covered calls on it? Well, maybe, maybe not. But what we've decided to do in this instance is sell call spreads. And so when you sell a call spread against a stock, meaning let's say XYZ stock is at $100 a share, normally you'd sell the 105 call, but then maybe you sell the 105 call and then you also buy a 110. Well, by doing that, you still get all the benefits of a covered call, except it's not going to be as much premium. Yes, you still get income. Yes, you still get the hope that the stock expires a penny below your short strike price. Yes, you get the opportunity to close out the call for a profit should the stock go down or should enough time decay go away. The only drawback to doing a call spread versus a covered call is that you're not going to get as much premium. Now, with everything in option trading, there's a good and a bad to everything. The good is that if all of a sudden you have this stock just rallying back, then that's good because of the fact that you have this long call that's there to help you. So in our case, with Microsoft having the rally with which it has, it blew right through our call spread. And so from there, we get to benefit to some upside on it. Now, granted, of course, the best way of going in, if God were to tell me that Microsoft were to rally like it did, then of course we would have just owned Microsoft. But God doesn't tell me where stocks are going to go, unfortunately. So this is just a nice tool to have in your toolbox to where if you feel that you still want to get income, you might be willing to give up a little bit of income in case for some reason the stock does rally a lot. Then a call spread is something with which to consider and add to your trading toolbox within the covered call portfolio. And that is the strategy block that I have for today. Sorry, no gift bags.
No gift bags. Instead, we'll have to keep on rolling as we go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show we tell you what we're keeping an eye on here until our next episode on Thursday. And looking here really quickly, we had our question of the week last week, and we'll pay it off in more detail on the Crypto Rundown, but we asked you had to buy a 10% out of the money call in one of these crypto assets, Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, or you're just completely done with crypto, and looks like exactly a third of you are washing your hands of crypto. You're buying Uncle Mike's URL right now, followed by 30% for buying the call in Bitcoin, 20% for ETH, 16.7% only for Solana. And we also asked you, we kind of having a little bit of fun this week with our question of the week. It's that time of the year. We were talking about the Super Bowl indicator. We did this last year. There's a couple of different ways to look at the Super Bowl indicator. One way is the total combined score, in which case last year's total combined score of only 43 points. It foreshadowed a weak year in the S&P. We asked you guys if you were buying what they were selling, and 43.5% of you said yes, you were buying long SPY, but buying it with the put there. So you were hedging your stuff last year. So this time last year, you were buying into the Super Bowl indicator. So we asked you, At this time, again, this year, according to the Super Bowl indicator, another way to look at it is if the AFC, so in this case, obviously the Chiefs wins, that also doesn't bode well for the market. If the NFC wins, then that is a good year for the market. So we're asking you right now, are you buying what this indicator is selling? Will the S end red for the year? And right now, just went live right before showtime. 57.1% of you saying no, you don't buy it. SPX will close the year up. And 42.9% say yes, you do believe it. And SPX will close down. Good luck to you on that one, listeners. Ad options is the place to go as we keep on rolling here. Mr. Meatball, we'll start with you. What are you keeping an eye on here for the rest of the week until our Thursday show?
Well, obviously CPI is going to be the big story, but I'm also watching earnings and what's happening there. I'm watching the S&P 500 and the Russell 2000 today. Are we going to see futures get over 41.5? Are we going to see the market really try and bust out ahead of non-farm pay, ahead of CPI? And then what is our reaction to CPI? And then is there fall through, or is it like the last few where, whatever we happen on CPI, you want to take the other side of it the next day?
Mr. Uncle Mike, same questions for you while you're preparing your gift bags for one and all, sir. What are you keeping an eye on for the rest of this week?
I mean, along with you have anything inflation related, you got to watch. So definitely watching CPI and just seeing if we can make a run. We did earlier, not today, but I want to see if we can make a run at the 4,200 level. See if we can break on through. That's the number I'm watching.
All right, listeners, that music means we have come to the end of another fun sojourn. Really quickly here, Mr. Meatball, before we go. I'm not sure if he mentioned this to you. I think we talked about it with the rock lobster. But we have this. This is one of our pro listeners, I believe. This is Pariah Pants. He tweeted this out. Looks like he got your book for Christmas. He tweeted a picture of him holding up the Trading Options for Edge book. And he says, what does he say here? He says, weird book under my Christmas tree. Never heard of the guy, but it smells like meatballs and an Olive Garden. So there you go.
Hilarious.
Clearly a listener, and he's also a fan of Olive Garden. So I guess, one must come with the other, sir.
Well, I appreciate the book purchase. You're going to get more out of that book than you'll ever get out of a meal at Olive Garden. So I hope you enjoy it.
Use the savings from that book, how much money you make, to go buy yourself a nice treat at Olive Garden. There you go. Then
you'll go to a real Italian restaurant.
Then you're just winning on both fronts. All right, Mr. Meatball. If they want to reach out to you to learn about your book or talk Olive Garden or anything else, where should they go? What should they do?
Yeah, come to optionpit.com, and I'm writing every day. You will come away a smarter, better trader. That is my goal. And hopefully you'll get some learnings to help you become a top-notch professional.
And if you don't learn, he guarantees you an Olive Garden gift card. So you can't lose. And anyway, all the breadsticks you can possibly eat, or perhaps some options learning. Either way, optionpit.com is the place to go. And Mr. Uncle Mike, what can folks look forward to in their gift bags from stcharleswealth.com?
Feel free to reach out to me and find out. But if you're looking for a financial advisor, check it out, stcharleswealth.com, or you can follow me on Twitter at Mike TOSAW, TOSAW, and trying to put out more and more content. And that's what we do.
You dug yourself a hole of those gift bags. Now, folks are going to be looking for something from you. They like the tchotchkes. So hit them up over there at stcharleswealth.com. Tell them what you'd like to see in the old gift bags. And if you want to hear more fun stuff, stay tuned. All you pro folks, hang out. We'll be back in a little bit with the crypto rundown, breaking down all the action out there. And spoiler alert, there is some. So we'll check all that out in a little bit. And then we're back again tomorrow, keeping things fast and furious, hot and heavy out there on the pro Q&A side. Got our buddy Mr. Jim Carroll coming in. So you have a lot of questions about all things vol. He'll be there to tackle them in the hot seat. And then, of course, you're also getting your early dose now of OPR on Tuesdays, usually hitting the network then. If not, it'll hit on Education Wednesday. All you pro folks, double dose of live options boot camp. I will be doing some traveling the week later. So getting a live double dose of options boot camp on Wednesday before we come back again on Thursday. Another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by SEBO. When it comes to trading volatility, trust SEBO, the creator of the VIX Index, for in-depth and relevant information. SEBO's tools and services gives you up-to-date trade insights, analysis, and positions of VIX options and futures. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/VIX today to learn more. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.